Alright, what's up, folks? Rich Van Tassel back with you, giving you the recap of the 4 o'clock block for Week 13 of the NFL season. The Los Angeles Chargers improved to 6-6. Surprise, surprise, they beat the Cleveland Browns, who dropped to 0-12. Man, the Browns are bad. The Chargers are now in a three-way tie at 6-6 atop the AFC West, with Oakland and Kansas City. Cleveland is terrible. DeShone Kizer, 15 of 32, 215 yards, one touchdown, one interception. He was their top rusher, 5 for 46, 9.2 per rush. Isaiah Crowell, 10 of 41, 4.1 per rush. The team, 22 of 89, 4 yards per rush. And that included Duke Johnson Jr., 7 carries for 2 yards. So, again, Cleveland can run the ball pretty effectively. Josh Gordon finally getting back in the NFL, 4 receptions, 85 yards. David Njoku, 4 receptions, 74, and the touchdown set the Bell to 33. DeShone Kizer lost a fumble. It was just a terrible fumble. He held onto the ball way too long inside the 20. Joe Schobert may not have been inside the 20. It was definitely in scoring position. But, Joe Schobert, I believe, had the only sack. That's his name, yeah. No interceptions. Matthew Days, 2 kick returns, 51 yards. Duke Johnson Jr. on the 12-yard punt return. Zane Gonzalez made his only field goal attempt for the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, 31 of 43, 344 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. He's played really well these past 2 games. Melvin Gordon, 19 carries, 77 yards, 4.1 per rush. Austin Eckler, 4 of 19, 4.8. The team, 25 of 94, 3.8 yards per rush. That includes 2 carries for negative 2 yards, however, by Phillip Rivers on kneel downs. I'm still a little surprised, even with that, they drop under 4 yards per carry. Keenan Allen, he's been playing well as well as Phillip Rivers has these past 2 games. 10 receptions, 105 yards, a touchdown. Hunter Henry, 7 of 81. Travis Benjamin, 4 of 68. Antonio Gates, 3 of 32. Russell Okung, Denzel Perryman recovered fumbles. Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen fumbled, was not lost, and Hunter Henry also recovered a fumble. 3 sacks, Darius Philion, Desmond King, and Joey Bosa, who's having a very good year. Adrian Phillips had an interception. Desmond King, 3 kick returns, 82 yards, 27.3 average, longest of 44, however, buoying the numbers just a bit. You take that off, it's 2 for 38, which is only 19. Travis Benjamin, a 9-yard punt return. Travis Coons, 4 for 5 in his field goals. So, really nothing to comment on with the Browns. I don't even know what you do with this team. You hope DeShone Kizer's confidence isn't completely wrecked. That's about it at this point. For the Chargers, Rivers playing very well. Melvin Gordon's starting to come on. This team's looking very dangerous at this point. It's a brand new season for them. They started out 0-4, but now they are 6-6 and 500, tied with the rest of them. So it's a 4-game season going down the stretch in the AFC West. And it's because of that as well, because the Oakland Raiders also got to 6-6. They won 24-17 over the New York Giants, who dropped to 2-10. Geno Smith, of course, getting the start for Eli Manning. 21 of 34, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions, replacing Eli Manning. Now, as I do this, the box score is not coming up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch to another game, and then we'll come back to that one. New Orleans, 31-21 over the Carolina Panthers. New Orleans is down 9-3. Carolina drops to 8-4. I'm going to touch that at the end. Cam Newton, 17 of 27, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was their top rusher again. 6 carries, 51 yards, 8.5 per rush. Jonathan Stewart, 11 of 45, 4.1 per rush, and a touchdown. The team, 23 of 112, 4.9 yards per rush. Devin Funchess, 4 receptions, 60 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 5 of 33. They both had touchdowns. Russell Shepard, 3 of 29. Brenton Burson, 1 of 18. Luke Kuechly and Damiere Byrd recovered fumbles. Kalen Clay lost a fumble. Rusher Shepard fumbled and was not lost. Michael Pallardy fumbled and recovered a fumble. The team had 2 sacks. Kyle Love, Mario Addison. No interceptions. Fozzie Whitaker, 2 kick returns, 42 yards. Kalen Clay, 3 of 20. Graham Gano did not attempt a field goal. That was with kick returns and punt returns right before I gave you the Graham Gano stat. Drew Brees, 25 of 34, 269 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Mark Ingram, 14 carries, 85 yards, 6.1 per rush, 1 touchdown. Alvin Kamara, 9 of 60, 6.7 per rush, 2 touchdowns. The team, 28 of 148, 5.3 yards per rush. That includes 4 carries for -3 yards by Drew Brees, bringing the numbers down. So very good rushing. Michael Thomas, 5 receptions, 70 yards, a touchdown. Alvin Kamara, 5 of 66. Mark Ingram, 6 of 37. Craig Robertson recovered a fumble. Josh Hill lost a fumble. 2 sacks. Kenny Vaccaro and A.J. Klein. No interceptions. No kick returns. Tommy Lee Lewis, 2 punt returns, 5 yards. Will Lutz, 1 for 2 in his field goals. Now, I wasn't giving many teams at 6-6 like the Packers, like the Cowboys. Now Detroit, who was 6-5, they are now 6-6. Arizona had a chance to get there, they lost. I wasn't giving those teams much opportunity to make the playoffs because of the strength of the AFC South. It looked like those teams were running away. Now that I start to look at it, though, these teams have to play each other down the stretch. Either Carolina's playing Atlanta next week, or I think Carolina may be playing Minnesota. New Orleans is playing Minnesota. They're also involved. They got to play. New Orleans and Atlanta are playing each other twice. So those things are going to lend themselves to potentially get one of those teams in at the end. And Carolina, one of the problems they face is they've, I believe, won every game outside of conference, so that means their in-conference record is pretty weak, obviously, so that's a situation where they have about the worst in-conference record you can have as one of the tiebreakers going into it, so we'll keep an eye on that, but certainly, I just was noticing that with these teams that they do have to play each other down the stretch. You also have Minnesota playing these teams, so that could factor in for it. Carolina, look, their offense is what it is. They tried to change it coming into this year. It didn't get done. They're in a case now where they're just relying on Cam Newton to do the running and hope they get things out of Jonathan Stewart. He's passing the ball pretty effectively, but all in all, this team is much more dependent on simply just finding big plays or having a few good drives, and they don't really care what they look like the rest of the way. It's, they have good drives, and then they don't care if they have 5 bad drives and then have another good drive. That's what it looks like. As for the Saints, as long as they keep developing that running game, this is a very, very dangerous team down the stretch. And, of course, that defense still has to continue to come along. We'll keep an eye on that. But that's a case where the longer they run the ball, they can control the clock and certainly keep a defense that's trying to learn off the field, which will enable them success down the stretch. St. Louis, the Los Angeles Rams 32-16 over the Arizona Cardinals. Los Angeles 9-3, very impressive 5-1 on the road. Arizona drops to 5-7. Now at 7 losses, I'd say a team is all but eliminated, even with those AFC or NFC West or South teams playing each other. Jared Goff 21 of 31, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Todd Gurley continues to run the ball very well. He had 19 carries for 74 yards in this game. That's 3.9 per rush. But even though he went below 4 yards per carry, you like that he wasn't terrible, still just shy of 4 yards per carry and carrying the load in this game. The team overall was 24 of 93.8 yards per rush. Todd Gurley was the top receiver, 6 of 84. Cooper Kupp, 5 of 68. Sammy Watkins, 3 of 38, a touchdown. Derek Carrier, 1 of 14. Gerald Everett, 2 of 7, receiving and a touchdown. Andrew Whitworth recovered a fumble. Jared Goff fumbled. It was not lost. The team had 6 sacks. Matt Longgrace, Robert Quinn had 1. Aaron Donald, Ethan Westbrooks had 2. Alec Ogletree returned an interception, 41 yards for a touchdown. LaMarcus Joyner had an interception. He returned 46 yards, but not for a touchdown. Pharoh Cooper, 2 kick returns for 34 yards. Michael Thomas, 1 of 15. Matt Longgrace, 1 for no yards. So between 3 guys, 4 kick returns, 49 yards, 12.3 average with only a longest of 21. That's not very good. Pharoh Cooper, 4 punt returns of 60, which is a 15-yard average, which is pretty good, but he had a longest of 30. So after that, it's 3 for 30, which is 10 yards per return. That's not bad at all. Greg Zuerlein was 4 for 4 in his field goals. For the Arizona Cardinals, Blaine Gabbert, 18 of 32, 221 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Kerwin Williams, 16 carries for 97 yards, 6.1 per rush. Blaine Gabbert, 4 of 12, 3 yards per rush. The team 24 of 118, 4.9 yards per rush, and a touchdown by Elijah Penny, who had 2 carries for 4 yards. Larry Fitzgerald, 10 of 98, receiving 1 touchdown. Ricky Seals-Jones, 2 of 44. J.J. Nelson, 2 of 42. Blaine Gabbert fumbled and recovered. The team had 1 sack. It was Chandler Jones. Kareem Martin had an interception. Britton Golden, 2 kick returns, 33 yards. Patrick Peterson, 2 punt returns for 12 yards. Phil Dawson, 1 for 2 in his field goals. Arizona, they are down to the third string quarterback for this team to be 5-7. You got to take what you can do. At this point, Blaine Gabbert is just not that good of a quarterback, and frankly, you get down to your third string, you're going to be in a case where you're really going to struggle to find your way into the playoffs. This team has just been, up and down. They've had some older players in there, some veteran players, and it just hasn't worked out for them this season. They got to sweep, obviously, the rest of the way to have any chance of making the playoffs. And that's highly unlikely at this point. Both that they'd make the playoffs at 9-7, and then they'd even get to 9-7. For the Rams, this team continues to impress me. Very good on the road. Their defense is starting to really, I think, mesh into the 3-4. They were showing flashes early on, but it takes some time to adjust from the 4-3 to the 3-4. Not as long as it does to go from a 3-4 to a 4-3, in my opinion. But they're starting to do that, and they're really coming along at this point, and let's see if they can hold on to get the division with 4 games left. Certainly a lot will depend on whether Seattle wins or loses tonight against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the New York Giants dropping 2-10, losing to the Oakland Raiders, who are now 6-6, and in the 3-way tie with the Los Angeles Chargers and Kansas City Chiefs. Geno Smith for the Giants, replacing Eli Manning, 21 of 34, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. Arlen Darkwall, 14 carries, 32 yards, 2.3 per rush. Geno Smith, 3 of 13, 4.3. Paul Porkins, 3 of 12, 4 yards per rush. The team, 24 of 65, 2.7 yards per rush. Evan Ingram, top receiver, 7 of 99, 1 touchdown. Sterling Shepard, 3 of 56. Tavares King, 4 of 23. Landon Collins recovered a fumble. Geno Smith lost 2 fumbles. 1 sack was Calvin Munson. No interceptions. Khalif Raymond, 2 kick returns, 32 yards. He had 2 punt returns for 10 yards. Aldrick Rosas made his only field goal for the Raiders. Derek Carr, 22 of 36, 287 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Marshawn Lynch, 17 carries, 101 yards, 5.9 per rush, 1 touchdown. DeAndre Washington, 6 of 16, 2.7 yards per rush, and touchdown. Jamizi Alalie had 1 rush for 9 yards. The team altogether was 29 of 119, which is 4.1 yards per rush. That includes a negative 1 yard rush by Derek Carr. I'm not sure if that was a kneel down, and a negative 11 yard rush technically by Marquette King on a muffed punt. He muffed it. It wasn't a punt that was punted where the receiver muffed it. Marquette King is the punter. He struggled with it in the backfield and just sat down on the ball. So good running numbers considering you're dealing with 2 carries for negative 12 yards. Cordell Patterson, 4 receptions, 97 yards. Clive Wofford, 4 for 57. Seth Roberts, 4 of 46 or 5 of 46. Johnny Holton, 3 for 39, the touchdown. Navarro Bowman, Khalil Mack recovered a fumble. Keith McGill II recovered 2 fumbles. Jalen Richard fumbled 3 times, did not lose any of them, recovered 1, and Johnny Holton lost a fumble. The team had 3 sacks. Danico Autry, Khalil Mack, and Bruce Irvin. That Khalil Mack sack, and when he recovered the fumble, he was offsides, and I even commented, watch Khalil Mack chew this guy up the next play. It was 1 play in between. He just went right around the guy, because it was like an offsides where he went, and then the guy didn't move initially, and then Khalil Mack got back on sides, and then the guy moved, and it shouldn't have been a penalty on him, so he took care of that in the best way possible. No interceptions for the Raiders. DeAndre Washington, 2 kick returns, 29 yards. Jalen Richard, 1 of 17. Jalen Richard, 4 punt returns, 23 yards. Giorgio Tavecchio, 1 for 1 in his field goals. We'll do the Giants quickly. Look, you turn to Geno Smith. That situation obviously wasn't handled the best. I don't really know why the Giants did it the way they did. I don't know who it was on. It looks like McAdoo's going to be fired. I mean, I don't know if he's taking the fall for an ownership decision. I don't see why McAdoo would come out and just start Geno Smith. So it's just an entire mess with the New York Giants. They really got to figure out how to run the ball. I'd like to see them get Wayne Gallman some carries the rest of the way, as I think he's their best option from what they have of any of these guys who can be a future running back. For the Raiders, look, as we said, like with the Los Angeles Chargers, who started out 0-4, it's now a new season between these teams, a 4-game season. Oakland, they've had their injury problems. They've had their offensive consistency problems. It's nice to see Marshawn Lynch get going in a game like this. That would be important. Hopefully they get Amari Cooper back from the injury soon, and with Derek Carr back, they can figure it out in the last 4 games and finally find some way to get into the playoffs, and then we can see some danger from this team moving forward. We will have to keep an eye on that. However, alright, when the Sunday night game goes final, we will give you the recap of that game either tonight or tomorrow morning. We also have to give you the preview of the Monday night game tomorrow between the Steelers and the Bengals, as well as the weekly NBA reports, so please stay tuned for those. Remember, we appreciate all subscriptions as well, and we will see you next time. Thank you all so much, and have a good night.